Hey, Charlene family, how you guys doing? Welcome back to our weekly Hospice 101 lives. I hope you guys had a good week so far, and thanks for hopping on and joining us again. If you're new, this is your first time hopping onto our weekly Hospice 101 lives. What we've been doing, we've been serving the Metroplex with home health and hospice and veteran care over the last 23 years. And one of the things that we've seen is that there's just not enough palpable, easy to digest education on senior care as a whole, but specifically hospice. And I know it's a hard word to say. It's not something that you would say at a birthday party, but it is very important because everyone is born and everyone at a certain time passes. And so we've been doing this for the last couple months, actually 2 months, and we have really enjoyed just kind of listening to a lot of families' questions and answering them, and then using this as an opportunity for loved ones to hop on and just understand what is hospice. So on these talks, what we've done, we've served several patients over the last 23 years. We've taken a scenario and kind of repurposed it and retold it so that you can sit yourself in their shoes, in their story, and see if that's something that relates and resonates to you or someone that you may know. And then we're going to walk that family through a hospice 101 and guide them on what hospice is and then take you through the whole story. So let's dive right into it and welcome. So this is actually Parkinson's Awareness Month, and so what we're starting to do now is that with each month, we'll focus on a specific diagnosis, and we'll tailor that diagnosis to hospice or home health as well. And so Parkinson's is a really tough disease, along with any other disease, and we just want to honor those who do have Parkinson's and are fighting the good fight and going through. Just the toughness of Parkinson's with family members and patients as well. So let's jump right into it. So stats, everyone loves stats, and now with ChatGPT and AI, there's so many ways that technology can help us and inform us. And so about 2 million people a year are on hospice services, and the reality of it is that only 18 to 21 days are utilized when there's a 6 month period. And so what we see a lot is that families will tell us, they're on hospice and they're getting a lot of help and a lot of support. And they're like, man, I wish I would have known that this is what it was earlier and the support that I could get from my loved one or for myself or on hospice. And so what we're doing is just educating if your loved one or patient actually qualifies, then hospice is right. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things going on right now in the industry when it comes to fraud and abuse. And there's unfortunately fraud in every area, but hospice is meant to be a benefit and a service to families and that they've been paying into. You've been paying into your tax dollars almost your whole life. And so this benefit is here for you when you do need it. And so it is a beautiful thing. So we're going to talk about a patient. Like I said before, we talk about a patient, but we reframe everything, gender, situation, so that at least you can step into it and know for HIPAA purposes what it's like. And we're going to talk today about Mr. Raymond Brooks, not to get confused with Ray Charles, but Mr. Raymond Brooks, his story is pretty awesome, and so we'll dive into it. 63 years old. This is a few years back, but we're going kind of back in time. But his guitar was his thing. Born and raised in New Orleans, played in a local band for 30 years. Met his wife Lillian, and you can see that picture there. Beautiful family. One daughter, Danielle. But about 8 years ago, his wife passed away. And so the difficulty, as when you're uh, married and you have kids, and then part of your heart breaks off and they pass away, it's very difficult to continue to move forward. But he did. He continued to play his guitar and take care of his daughter. And then later on, fast forward into his 70s, he did notice something that was kind of odd. He started realizing he couldn't, play those chords, play those blues, or play anything as fast as he wanted to, and it was difficult for him. And so he just thought like, hey, I'm just getting slower. I'm getting older. It's probably normal, right? But over time, those movements, that dexterity, which is the movement in his fingers, became stiff. And he wasn't able to hold his pick hard enough, to the point where he was like actually kind of concerned. And so his Parkinson's, he got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and then things began a little bit tougher. Not just his dexterity, which is the movement in his upper extremities with his fingers, but also his walking, his ambulation. And so we came across his path where his PCP ordered home health services for him to get some physical therapy and occupational therapy. So occupational therapy is for mostly upper body, but it's how do you live life and functionally move throughout your environment, whether it's dressing, getting dressed, or cooking, playing guitar, right? Occupational therapist came and helped him. And then therapy was more for physical therapy, for ambulation, which is walking with a walker, safety, mobility improvement. But the thing with, unfortunately, with Mr. Ray is that his disease continued to progress. Now he was on home health off and on for a long time, so he was able to do a good job and to continue to maintain his quality of life on home health. But it got to the point where it got worse, and so the disease took more of its toll. He had multiple falls, right, and then he's had difficult swallowing, and then increased weakness, and he was hospitalized for a short time. And Danielle, his daughter, was exhausted and worried, going back and forth and saying, "What do we do?" And at the last admission, doctors were like, "You probably should consider, hospice." And so Danielle's like, "What, hospice? Like, what does that even mean? And like, what does hospice mean? Like, what does that entail? How do I figure this out?" And so, if you've just joined us now, welcome. You probably we're right in the middle of it, but what we've been doing is going through stories about patients and retelling them for privacy purposes, and guiding you through what a hospice 101 is, because hospice, the word hospice is scary. And so we've been doing this for the last couple months, and it's been a joy to answer questions and to guide families through and make it simple enough to understand what hospice is, and knowing that not everyone qualifies for hospice. There has to be specific measures that have to be met clinically for someone to qualify. But there are also other ways that you can get help at home through home health or personal care. And so we've been doing that, which has been pretty great. So if you're watching, welcome. So Danielle just got the news about what is this? What is hospice? And so that's where we pick up. And so when we walk through families about what hospice is, there's several layers to hospice, but to make it very simple, I don't know if you guys remember, um, like like that book when I was a kid, Barnes and Noble. I would do the like, I don't know, calculus for dummies, right? Or I'm not calling you guys a dummy. I'm just saying, like, it's sometimes you need things that can be dumbed down, right? And so that's what the purpose of this is to make it simple, to make it understandable. So we're gonna break down hospice for dummies, if you would say. What is the focus of hospice? Where does hospice happen? And then also where hospice is appropriate. And so when is it appropriate? So hospice focuses on pain and symptom management, tying to the diagnosis, the primary diagnosis of why someone was admitted to hospice. The goal is to keep your loved one safe, comfortable. And then there's other aspects of it where it ties into the emotional and spiritual support. A lot of support for family members, because when you're walking through this disease, you need an expert that knows how to navigate the path, and that's where hospice shines for families. Where does it happen? It could happen anywhere. It could happen, well, not anywhere. It can happen at like Toys R Us or something. Toys R Us is not around, so that doesn't make sense. But you know what I'm saying. It could be at home. It could be at an assisted living facility. It could be at a group home. It could be at a skilled nursing facility, right? It could be at if you have a mom that is on hospice and you want to bring her to your house, it could be done there, right? It's anywhere where the beneficiary, the patient, lives safely. Hospice can be done there. And that's a great question, because some families just want to be at home. Like Ray, he wants to be at home. He doesn't want to go to a skilled nursing facility. He wants to be able to be at home and live his last days at home. And so where they say, like, there's no place like home, right? So where and when is it appropriate? So now this is where a doctor looks at everything. Your PCP sometimes, maybe it's an oncologist, maybe it's a neurologist, a cardiologist, all the ologists. They are looking at signs and symptoms of decline and whether or not they think that someone's going to live for 6 months or less, and they write the order. And that's where the ball starts, right, to pick up for hospice services. So we talked about those three areas. Now let's talk about the three core parts of hospice. So you have a care team, you have supplies, DME, and then you have medication. So we're going to break down these areas so at least you have an understanding of the benefits of hospice and how hospice is there to help. And so let's dive into the care team. So the care team is an IDT team, interdisciplinary team, and their job is to focus on creating good care plans tied to the primary diagnosis of why your loved one is on hospice. So the first person I'm going to talk about is going to be like the quarterback, the main person who's in control of guiding every part of the team, which is the RN, the nurse case manager. That nurse's job is to help create an initial assessment, to review everything, review meds, review clinicals, get to know your family, get to know your Mr. Ray, and get to know that he loves to play the guitar, get to know about his loved one, his wife Lillian, who passed away. All right, get to know the whole story, get to know what he likes, he doesn't like spinach, right? And you get to know. The best hospice is what they do is that the team gets to know the family and creates a tailored care plan for them to guide them through, because not every person is the same. And so the hospice nurse's job is to do that. The second person that's a part of the team, it's a big part, is the aide, the hospice aide. So a lot of times families will say, oh, I need someone to be there with my mom, 24/7, or at least several hours of the day, because I'm not there. I have to go to work. Or with Ray's situation, he's not home by himself. So what happens in that situation when Danielle's at work and she's got kids, and so he's by himself? So the aide's role is not to be there at the bedside, right? This is all covered by Medicare. So the aide's role is to be under the guidance of what the RN says. And so let's say the RN says, okay, you need 2 to 3 baths a week based off of what the needs are. The aide goes out and does 2 to 3 baths a week. And it's usually 30 to 45 minutes, maybe max an hour, just depends. But the aide is there specifically to help with comfort and quality and care and hygiene. All those things are super needed. And that's a great help. And there's no cost. And that's what Medicare covers. And so now in Ray's situation, we'll talk about it later, they need extra hours. They need 6 hours a day, or just because he's at home by himself, that's where you have to pay out of pocket for those services. But the aide is a great benefit, because you need someone who's connected to the RN to guide through a hospice care plan, which is great. Next person is the chaplain and social worker. The chaplain's job, and a lot of times with religion or faith, a lot of people can be like, oh, I don't want a chaplain, right? But the chaplain's job is really to help them emotionally, just like the social worker's job is, because grief, death, end of life, the fear of the unknown, you need someone to talk through things and to just walk through the emotions that you will face and your family will face when it comes to death. The same kind of team that you get when someone is pregnant and about to have a baby, and you have an OBGYN, you have the PCP, you have a midwife, you have so many people to help through the process. It's the same when it comes to hospice services. Another person, and this is just a few people in the care team, is the hospice medical director. So now Ray has his neurologist and he has his PCP. He's been with them for 20 something years now. When it comes to hospice services, the hospice has a doctor, and that doctor is specialized and trained when it comes to end of life. And so the reason why Medicare created that kind of process and that benefit is to allow for great coordination of care. So now, let's say the nurse is going out and notices some changes with Ray, she can pick up the phone or text the doctor that's on the hospice team, triage it, get those medications, triage a different plan, figure it out, boom, and execute that pretty quickly. So it allows for great continuity, great coordination, and allows things to be done a lot smoother. And they're experts. Unlike when you have your PCP or your neurologist, you're waiting for like 6 months, unfortunately, or 3 months to see them. It's not the same when it comes to hospice. Hospice has their own doctor, which is nice. So that's the let's spend a little bit more time on that because I wanted to kind of dive in because we see a lot of questions when it comes to the hospice team and the team members. And so the next part is medications. And so medications are reviewed by the quarterback, the RN, and that nurse will come in and review medications that are tied to the terminal illness of hospice and then not tied to the terminal illness. So the best hospices, what they do is that they'll review all the current meds and educate the families on specific meds that won't be covered, that in your insurance would pick up, and then Medicare would cover under hospice certain things. A lot of times when someone is passing away, and you've probably been through this or seen this, you go to this doctor prescribes med, this doctor prescribes med, this doctor prescribes meds, and then you have like 4 different MARs, and those MARs are the medication records. And then you get all these meds, and then you go home to your dad, or Danielle goes to her dad and says, "Wow, you have a lot of meds. Like, what are all these meds doing?" That's where hospice comes in too, to reconcile those meds and say, you may not need that med right now, especially how his body's declining and not tolerating and absorbing those meds. Let's go ahead and discharge those meds. So it should be the best hospice is what they should do is guide you through those decisions, to make good decisions to discharge those meds. So that helps a lot. And then also the hospice will coordinate all the meds, and sometimes they'll drop ship those meds to the house so you don't have to go back and forth to the pharmacy all the time, which is a big help, which is great. Next core of the last three is medications. We talked about medications. It's DME and supplies. So chucks, wipes, Depends, hospital beds, all the images that you see there are all given from the hospice to the beneficiary. And so each hospice, what they do is they have a list of items. Now, if you want really nice fancy ones or really nice high-end ones, you may have to pay out of pocket for those, but the list that the hospice provides is a list that is covered 100% by what Medicare will give. So it's super helpful. Instead of you buying, a whole bunch of wipes and chucks or Depends weekly on Amazon, if your loved one qualifies for hospice, you can coordinate with the RN case manager, the quarterback, and then they can order those, and it could be drop shipped to the house, which is a big expense too. And so now you kind of see those 3 areas. Where does Danielle start for her dad? So we talked about this. Danielle was in the hospital with her dad, Mr. Ray, and the doctor said, "Okay, I think the time is now. I think you need to start considering hospice." So Danielle goes and Googles or gets a recommendation from the social worker that's there on the top 3 in the area hospices. And now she's got to start doing some research and getting to know the hospice, or maybe she knew someone that used to work at a hospice. So you're trying to pick and choose the right ones. And so the best hospices, what they do is this: they kind of walk you through a hospice 101, or they guide you through what to expect next. Now, the thing with hospice is hospice doesn't take away all the struggle that may happen when it comes, and the pain that may happens when it comes to end of life, because that it's life, and that those things happen, unfortunately. But the best hospices, what they do is they navigate you through that. They guide you through that, just like when you're going through turbulence in an airplane and the pilot's saying, "Hey, we've got turbulence coming up. This next 20 minutes is going to be a rough patch. Please put your seatbelt on." And you're like, "Yeah, but the walkie-talkie, I can't do that, but no, I can't do it. We got this coming up. Just let you know, you'll be safe. Everything's going to be good. And I'll come back on in 20 minutes and let you know." Now, when that turbulence hits, it's crazy. It's shaking and everything is going, and you can't stop that. And that's the same thing with hospice. There's parts of it where it's just hard. It's going to be hard, but at least you have someone to guide you through it and help you along the way. And so that's where hospice is really helpful. So qualifications we talked about, for specifically because this is Parkinson's Awareness Month. Parkinson's has its own clinical criteria. So the hospice, what they'll do is they'll pull information from the PCP, from the hospital, from the neurologist, and look at all the clinical implications of what meets that criteria. And these are called LCDs of the diagnosis. So the hospice's job is to do that and to qualify, to see if they qualify or not. So in this case, he does qualify for hospice services. And these are all the different areas. You've got cardiac, you've got COPD, you've got Alzheimer's, dementia, you've got cancer. There's several different LCDs that paint the picture of when someone will qualify. Now, a lot of times there would be someone that's on hospice for more than 6 months or even a year, and they discharge off of hospice, is because they don't qualify anymore. Maybe they've gotten better, and we call it the hospice cure sometimes. Sometimes there's a steep decline, and then all of a sudden you get all this help and all this support, and then your loved one bounces back. Now, when it comes to certain diagnoses like cancer, sometimes we see miracles. Sometimes it happens, and nobody knows what tomorrow will hold. But all these qualifications have to be met, and the recertification has to happen by the hospice to say, do you continue to qualify for hospice services? Very, very important, because there's someone paying for all this, and that's Medicare. Now, let's say Ray was in his 60s and he didn't have Medicare. Let's say he had Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna. Within the plan that he had and the insurance, some of those plans have a hospice benefit. So if he needs hospice and he doesn't have Medicare, what we usually recommend families to is to reach out to the insurance carrier and have them provide a list of hospices that are in network specifically with that insurance, which will allow him to understand and to know who to go to for the hospice services. But under Medicare Part A, it's covered 100%. So the things that we talked about before are covered. The things that aren't covered are the medications that are not falling within the primary terminal diagnosis, and the terminal diagnosis for hospice. Extra caregiving services that we talked about for Mr. Ray, needing kind of someone to be there at the bedside. Really expensive, high-end equipment that is not covered, like a really nice Cadillac hospital bed. It's fortunately not covered under hospice. And so those are some things that are not covered, but insurance covers hospice 100%. So now Ray's on hospice. He's been on hospice for 8 months. He's at home. He's got a volunteer coming to see him, playing the guitar, and hospice nurses are there, the chaplain's there, social worker, and it's just great. And he's able to get the care that he needs as he's declining. He's still not doing too well. He's got some spots where he'll perk up and things are good, and one day is not. But anything can happen at any moment, and knowing that you have the support of hospice there to guide you through, and Danielle specifically through this time is super important. And so, but that's Ray. So we kind of walk through the pillars, the areas of hospice, or the areas of care, specifically under hospice. But if you look at this diagram, you've got several different categories when we talk about care at home. So you've got home health, which he was on home health, did physical therapy and nursing, and this is while he was just recently getting diagnosed, a brand new diagnosis, not knowing what to do, getting OT as well, and then personal care, which is what he's getting now on hospice too. So he's getting hospice, but the family's paying for a couple hours a week for someone to be there at the bedside as well. Palliative care, he went from home health to a little bit of palliative care and then straight into hospice. And so that's kind of like what we see, not just here, and we're in Dallas, Texas, but nationwide. When you're talking about care at home, these are the areas: home health, personal care, palliative care, and then hospice care. And so, yeah, I hope that helped you guys. I hope that was beneficial to you guys as a whole. I think a lot of times when you think about hospice, it's scary, it's difficult. But yeah, we're gonna I think we have some questions. I'm gonna bring in JT in the background for a few questions as well.
What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thank you. Yeah, we have just a couple questions. One is from David on YouTube. It sounds like he didn't have a good experience with hospice care. And he said that hospice is all about money now, and that nurses can't get in touch with the doctor. What does that mean? Like, from his perspective, how are they supposed to get in touch with the doctor?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm sorry that you went through that. That's not cool at all, actually. So I always like to tell families that hospice is the same underneath what CMS and Medicare offers to families, but not every hospice is run the same, right? So what I mean by that is just how each hospices run their agency. So when you think about Popeyes or Chick-fil-A, they serve chicken, but the manner in which they serve chicken is different, right? And so unfortunately, I'm sorry you went through that. but it all depends on when we were talking about earlier about picking the right hospice. Not every hospice is perfect. There's going to be some issues for sure, because no one is perfect, right? But the way that it's run with intentionality is important to make sure you pick the right one. So you have a lot of hospices that are getting really, really big, and they're getting corporate affiliated, and they're getting bought out by private equities and becoming more of a machine. Then you have your mom and pops that are super small, right? That maybe only have a few people that can work it and do a great job. Then you have the medium-sized hospices, right, who can kind of do the best of both, right? Maintain good culture, maintain good services. So it's just about how each hospice is run and the one that you pick to get your care for your loved one. And so with the nurse in that situation, it may have been, I'm not sure, but that maybe that nurse was just in a corporation, right? And then the doctor's really, really busy, and she's not able to get a hold of the doctor quick enough. And so, I'm sorry about that. That's not fun. It's not neat, especially at the tough time, but that does happen. So.
And then one more question, just because it's kind of come up for us personally at Charlotte, and if you're on lunch, maybe you're in this situation yourself, but for a son, daughter, medical power of attorney, friend, whoever it is that's with a patient when they're at a rehab or a hospital, and the case manager, the social worker, a lot of them are very busy, overwhelmed, have a lot of patients that they're dealing with. If they feel confused as to like next steps about like home health or hospice or the things that you're talking about after they leave the hospital,
Mhm.
like where would you recommend they go besides here on our YouTube channel
Oh
or
yeah.
on social media?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. But now with AI and like chat GPT and Claude, like you can actually put some good stuff in there and be like, all right, my mom just discharged from the hospital today. I live in X, I live in this city. I'm not sure what to do. Like, it's a technology. There's some huge benefits now, because like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you couldn't get that instant information. It'd be hard. You'd have to call, phone a friend, like, and figure it out. But now some families we talk to, they've done that. They'll just research, Google, they'll try to find. And so it's, if you've never been through this situation, of course, come follow all of our stuff, all of our content, all of our information. It's super helpful for families. But also, it's like you may have a friend that may be a doctor. You may have a friend that's a social worker. You may have a loved one who's in healthcare. Call them, reach out to them and say, hey, or you may have a neighbor, right? Or someone, just reach out to them. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. I think that's the hardest part, because when you're overwhelmed, the last thing you can think of is like reaching out to someone else. But a lot of people care for you. A lot of people care for your loved one, and they want to help. Sometimes they just don't know what to do. And so if you reach out to those people and talk to them, 9 times out of 10, they'll help you. So
Awesome. That's all we got.
cool.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Wow, that was good. That's good. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys hopping on. We'll be back again next week. We'll be doing this as long as God gives us breath, and talking about hospice and educating families. This month will be Parkinson's, and next month we'll do a different diagnosis. And so, but yeah, we'll see you guys next time. God bless, and until next week.